Well, at the Washington Ideas Forum, hosted by the Atlantic and by the Aspen Institute, I had the privilege of sitting in a panel that included a broad cross-cut of luminaries. We had historians, we had legislators, the House and the Senate, we had journalists, and it was a fascinating discussion. The basic thrust of the dialogue was to talk about cybersecurity threats, but we were all over the map because some people represented a military point of view, had people from the State Department, and so on. And it was fascinating to listen to Leslie Gelb elevate the discussion. While we're talking more at an operational tactical level, he wanted to talk at a strategic and visionary level. So many ideas on the table, and what we tended to galvanize around is that cybersecurity is a threat to the nation, and it's not a great expense that we have to engage in to mitigate this threat. It's mostly an issue framed by law and by policy. So we have plenty of resources, but we need to connect the dots, if you will, across the bureaucracies of government and to the private sector. So it's a partnership in government and the private sector for how we'd mitigate this threat. And this, I would highlight, this threat is of strategic significance. So the dialogue was fascinating. I think everybody benefited. The legislators, the legislators, the journalists, and then the think tank people that were in the room. So it was a useful discussion. The big concern from cybersecurity threats is that the nation is dependent upon a cybersecurity infrastructure. That's how we move our money, that's how we make transportation reservations, that's how we distribute electric power, and so on. So we as a nation have become dependent upon this thing we call the net or the internet or the cyber infrastructure. And the issue for us is that a relatively small group, say an extremist group, with a relatively small investment could cause strategic harm to the nation. Now, example, the economy is $14 trillion a year. Two banks in New York move $7 trillion a day. So $14 trillion a year is our economy, $7 trillion a day. There's nothing backing up those transactions except that data. There's no gold, there are no dollars. So what would happen if you contaminated that process? It could have a cascading effect on global markets, financial markets around the globe. So just something that could impact global financial trading or financial activity could have catastrophic effects. So, you can make that argument for other critical infrastructures like transportation or electric power.
Well, nuclear certainly, I think, as well, biological, chemical weapon of mass destruction used by a group that has the ability to have it dispersed in a broad fashion. Those are the things that we need to be constantly concerned about. Also, new threats in a changing environment. The whole issue of cyber and the protection of our cyber networks, not just from hackers, but from those who want to get into and use the cyber world to get into our critical infrastructure.
And shut down our economy.
And try to shut down our economy, yes.
You've hired a hacker. A prominent hacker, you said, to the Council on Foreign Relations. I mean, that seems like a smart thing to do. Why did it take so long?
Well, I don't know, and he's actually a volunteer. He's on our Special Advisory Committee, but we have been in the cyber area hiring real experts from the private sector to come in to really let us be at the forefront of this new battlefield, both in terms of how we coordinate among the federal government, but also, again, with the private sector, which owns 85%.
You have an internet bill. It's been called the kill switch bill that would allow the president to seize control or shut down portions of the internet if the U.S. was under some sort of cyber attack. I don't know if you've seen the internet lately. There's a lot of people out there who think that what you are granting the president is absolute power to shut down freedom of speech. I mean, this is just over the top.
No way. And total misinformation. I don't know whether people are intentionally peddling the misinformation. Here's the fact. Cyber war is going on in some sense right now. Our civilian infrastructure, the internet that runs the electric grid, the telecommunications grid, transportation, all the rest is constantly being probed by nation states, by some terrorist groups, by organized criminal gangs. And we need this capacity in time of war. We need the capacity for the president to say, internet service provider, we've got to disconnect the American internet from all traffic coming in from another foreign country, or we've got to put a patch on this part of it. The president will never take over, the government should never take over the internet. And listen, we've consulted, Senator Collins and I are proposing this bill with civil liberties and privacy experts. This is a matter of national security. A cyber attack on America can do as much or more damage today by incapacitating our banks, our communications, our finance, our transportation as a conventional war attack. And the president, in catastrophic cases, not going to do it every day, not going to take it over. So I say to my friends on the internet, relax. Take a look at the bill. And this is something that we need to protect our country. Right now, China, the government, can disconnect parts of its internet in the case of war. We need to have that here, too.
Being revealed.
Now, I want to make the case for secrecy in government when it comes to the conduct of national security affairs, and possibly for deception where that's appropriate. You know, Winston Churchill said during World War II that in wartime, truth is so important it should be surrounded by a bodyguard of lies.
Do you really believe that?
Absolutely.
You would lie in order to preserve the truth?
If I had to say something I knew was false to protect American national security, I would do it. I don't think we're often faced with that difficulty. But would I lie about where the D-Day invasion was going to take place to deceive the Germans? You better believe it.
Why do people in the government think that the rules of society or the laws don't apply to them?
Because they are not dealing in the civil society we live in under the Constitution. They are dealing in an anarchic environment internationally where different rules apply.
But you took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and the Constitution mandates certain openness and certain fairness. You're willing to do away with that in order to achieve a temporary military goal?
And I think, as Justice Jackson said in a famous decision, the Constitution's not a suicide pact.
But you took an oath to it.
That's exactly right. And I think defending the United States from foreign threats does require actions that in a normal business environment in the United States we would find unprofessional. I don't make any apology for it.
I prefer